Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Reset with Raven. I am your host, Raven M. Harris, and I am grateful that you are here, that you are listening, and that you are watching. As many of you know, the goal of this podcast is to help people end suffering in silence. There's a lot of things that maybe we talk about with our friends, maybe we talk about with our homeboys, our homegirls, and there's some stuff that we really just keep inside. It's trapped inside due to fears, due to insecurities, due to what maybe they think. And this week's guest and I really connected because he used the word loneliness. And while I'm grateful that I don't know that I've ever experienced true loneliness, I definitely had a desire for friendships, for camaraderie, for meaningful relationships. And I definitely think that there's a desire that we all have. Maybe it's not something that we express. Maybe it's something we keep it, inside that, oh, I'm good. I can handle my own. I'm good. But I definitely think there's a need and a desire for most people that want companionship. For you all to hear this conversation between Lee Hopkins and I about finding meaningful relationships. Welcome, Lee.
Wow, thank you so much, Raven. Well, welcome me. Thank you so much for that great introduction.
Awesome. I'm excited that you are here. And one of the first things I want to talk about is, I heard this statement and I agreed with it. And I'm curious to know when you think about this statement and in light of your experience, your life, and just what you do now in the world. And we'll get to that later in this conversation. But just tell us what this means to you. We all want to be understood. What does that statement mean for you?
Wow, we're starting off pretty deep. We're starting off pretty deep here because that means a whole lot to me. I mean, that is essentially it's the mantra of what I do and why I do it and why you do what you do too. It's because we all want to be understood in a way that really makes us feel seen, heard, and connected with each other. And so when I hear this, we want to be understood, I feel that, I believe that we want our feelings in any given event to be understood and reflected back to us. That's like understanding for us. So, however I'm feeling in a moment, even if you're not feeling it and you're my friend and we're talking to each other, I want you to demonstrate that you understand my frustrations. I want you to demonstrate that you understand my joy, my sadness. I'm going to come to you because I want you to understand me. I want you to demonstrate and show me.
That's good. When I think about being seen
Mm.
and being heard, I've felt in my life several times that I wasn't seen. That,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like you've heard that phrase like nobody puts baby in a corner. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that, people don't see me, people don't hear me. And it could be a hurting feeling. It could be a painful feeling of like everything is happening around you and you're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of there. I've moved a lot in career and in college. And I think one of the biggest things I've experienced as an adult is just going to different environments and trying to find your tribe, your people, where
Mm-hmm.
you fit, where you belong. And that's a whole nother thing, we could talk about belonging.
Mm-hmm.
What has that experience been like for you in terms of finding your people?
Yeah, finding my people. So that's something that I've heard all my life essentially. You gotta find your tribe. You gotta find your tribe. And so I grew up in a small town in Ohio and I was always feeling like really disconnected, like I didn't have a tribe. I didn't have people. So the people I grew up with, I didn't feel like I understood them and I didn't understand why they did their social events or I wasn't able to connect to them on a level. So I just thought, well, I just have to find my tribe. You know, I live in a small town. When I graduated from high school, I went to college. And in college, I thought, well, I can find my tribe here because they're brand new people. whole new experience with different people from different places, different cultures, different backgrounds, even international students. And I thought, wow, this is where I'm going to find my people. This is it. I mean, I I'm in a new place, and sure enough, I did meet some nice people, but I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel seen by them, and I didn't feel seen because I started to hear some new things about how you have to be your authentic self, and you still have to find your tribe. So I thought, well, I can't be my authentic self here in Ohio, period, at all. Even after I graduated college, I thought I need to leave. So I had an opportunity to move to California. And this is where I started to reinvent myself. I started to come out of my shell a little more. So at this point, I'm in my mid to late 20s. And I want to share with your audience, you and your audience, that I'm also a transgendered man. So when I was in Ohio, I was presenting as female. I was presenting as female, and I was dating women. And that was one of the things that I thought, well, I'm not being my authentic self about. So I had to leave Ohio to go to California, where it's more acceptable, and be my authentic self. And there I go. I have a girlfriend, and I'm meeting new people. I'm actually on the karaoke scene. A lot of people love me out there. We're high fiving, and I'm making really great connections, or so I thought, with people. But then I still felt like I couldn't be myself with them. And I'm thinking, I have to be my authentic self, but I thought that I was. I thought that I was. And at that point in the story, I'm still presenting as female. And I thought, after some more reflection and more experience, that, well, the problem is that I'm not being my authentic trans man self in front of these people, and so we can never be connected. So I had the idea that, well, I have to leave the state of California because the state of California is wrong and it's backwards, and I'm never going to find my tribe here. So then I moved to Chicago. And in Chicago, I found the right people, the culture, the queer people who helped me make my transition. They supported me, they helped me figure out what I needed to do emotionally and um, medically. They helped me do all the things that I needed to do. And also, Caitlyn Jenner was coming out, so it was more acceptable. And I'm figuring, I'm going to be my authentic self. Here I am in Chicago, in the second largest city in the US, probably the third now. But in the second largest city, I'm going to A, find my tribe, and B, be my authentic self. And none of that happened. None of it happens there. So I had this experience of where I moved from Ohio to California to Chicago, just trying to be my authentic self. But most of the time, I felt like if I tell these people my truth, whatever it is, if I tell these people my truth, they're going to dislike me. I felt that in Ohio, I felt that in California, and then I felt that in Chicago. Even though I stepped into my trans man self, I thought they're going to find out something about me and they're not going to like me ever. So I can never share. And the interesting thing about this and why I couldn't make friendships was that it just showed up in no any circle I went to. So I'm in the transgender circle and I'm feeling very connected to them because we share this experience. We share this experience. But I also found myself being um, in a circle that was more so people who didn't make as much money as I did. So I felt kind of like I can't share that I have a corporate job where they're not doing the same and they're expressing uh, hardship in paying for the surgeries that they need. Well, I already have that stuff paid for me because of the company I worked for. And it was like I felt some shame about that. I can't share that with people. And having I had experiences where I find myself in a circle and I'm the only black person or the only person of color. And so I cannot share my experiences about being a person of color. So I got to keep that down. I got to hide that. And these are all self imposed. But when I discovered that, I really had to share that with other people. Like, hey, don't do that to yourself. It's self imposed. It's really hard to snap out of it.
Ooh, that self-imposed word. As you were talking, that just kept like ringing and ringing or resonating for me.
Mm,
Um, you said acceptance, and it made me think about when we don't accept ourselves first, when we're
yeah.
looking for validation from other people,
Mhm.
when we're hoping that, they like me or I fit in. And I realized that too. And it's like I feel like it took me a while to like have like that ding 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 go off, but it's like
Yeah.
that's what it was. You were worried about what they saw instead of, as you said, being yourself. The people that are meant
Mhm.
for you, I truly believe this. It's like attracts like. If the people that are meant for you, that are supposed to support you, lift you up, be there for you, they will want you to be your real self.
Absolutely.
And then when you said too, the only, I too have found myself in many environments where I'm the only. And I've been working on, like actively working on, this is something right now. It's like, are you shrinking because you're the only? Are you
Mhm.
remembering like the power that you hold? You bring different views, different lived experiences, all types of differentness to this environment when you're the only. So I found that it's like, oh, you were looking at it as a handicap when it
Yes.
really was the power in the
I
situation.
was. That's a really good, insightful point. Looking at it as if I'm the one that they're going to blame or to be scapegoated. I'm scared of all the power that they have, so I just give mine to them, not realizing that I can do things. I'm good at stuff, and there's importance for me to be here.
Mm. I'm curious to know, after this experience of like, okay, trying to figure out like, your fit and trying to figure out, like, it's really like, I think it's like a learning yourself, learning your power, learning who you are. And it's a journey, right?
Hmm.
As you were saying, like, in your late 20s going into your 30s, like trying to figure out like what how do you want to show up in the world, right?
Right.
I'm curious to know, was there some moment, was there some tipping point? What changed or what clicked for you where you're like, huh, I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to try to fit in. You even said
Yeah.
like you would just say the life of the party. No, I added that part, but you said that
It
you would do
was.
the karaoke and all that. It's like, I am the party. What clicked for you?
Wow, and that's so right though. The karaoke thing. I even hosted karaoke for a little bit, but a lot of people just knew me and they treated me like on the outside, like they liked me, and that just wasn't enough for me. And so what clicked for me is that I moved to Chicago and I was having all of these problems like why am I not making the friendships that I think I want? Why am I not able to do this? Where are these people? So I went to therapy, I went to counseling, and in group therapy I learned a lot about my own behaviors, like reflecting on my own behaviors and paying attention to those things. And so one day I decided that I'm going to change my mindset about it. Like you talked about, giving away my power and figuring out how I want to show up in the world. I said giving away my power, but talking about how I want to show up in the world. I didn't realize I could even decide that. I thought people decided that for me. And so I took this powerful concept with me and I decided that I wanted to make friends. I wanted to meet somebody new. I'm going to try this thing. I went to a uh, comedy club as I started to really enjoy the comedy scene. I went to a comedy club, and that was a couple of years into my transition. I was single, and I had no friends really, and I just wanted to make a friend. So I went with the mindset that I'm going to meet somebody, and we're going to make friends. I did. Sure enough, I go into the place, have a drink, talking to some guy, we're connecting, we're clicking, and they mentioned to me that they have never ever seen a trans person before. They've never met one. They don't know why anyone would ever do it. They don't understand the process. And I thought, I got you. We are going to be best of friends right here and right now because I'm going to tell you that I'm trans and you are going to be so surprised and interested that you and I are definitely going to connect because I can be my authentic self to you. This is an opportunity for me. And as soon as I did that, he stopped talking completely. His jaw dropped and he left. He left the entire venue. He was gone. Didn't say anything else. I was like, dang, that hurt. That hurt a lot. And I share this story because in all my life, I thought that I was going to be rejected for being my authentic self. And so I hid. I hid in Ohio. I hid in California. I started to hide in Chicago. And here I am opening up wide for somebody to see my deepest authentic truth, and they reject me. And what changed for me is that I didn't die. That was it. I had an opportunity to go and talk to people about my experience to help me understand it and reflect on it. I was devastated at that time. I'm not going to lie to you. That hurts. But at the end of the day, I understand that this person put up a boundary. They did us a favor. He's like, hey, I can't handle this. I'm not interested in this. And I don't want this in my life. And I also realized that I don't want that in my life either. Because I'm not going to chase down somebody who's not interested in knowing me. No, neither of us wants that. So that's one of the things that really changed, that experience right there.
As you were talking about, like, I'm not going to chase someone down. I think that that's phenomenal too, in terms of like the energy that you receive from people, the vibes, the experience you have for people. When you recognize, like, oh, this doesn't feed me, this is not
Yep.
good for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. And just recognizes, you know what? I'm not for everybody. And again, you've had to grow through that. You've had to learn that. I'm speaking for myself too. It's like, okay, I'm not for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And another thing I really want to make sure we point out, when you do something that's different or uncomfortable, or you maybe broach a subject that hasn't been broached with someone, the fact that you did it anyway, and as you said, I didn't die. That was powerful for me when you said that, because there's been things that's like, I don't know if I should do it. I should, and sometimes it's like, okay, you know what, just go for
Yeah.
it. And another lesson you just taught us, not only just go for it, just do it, even if it doesn't work out as expected, it wasn't the end of the world.
Right. It wasn't. And giving yourself that grace to look back at those experiences is something that's really, really helpful because I keep looking at that experiences and I've got so many lessons that I can draw from it. Like, wow, maybe I overshared, which is something I'm careful to do when I meet new people because that's my deepest truth. Overshared. And not everybody, even though I'm all out about it, not everybody needs to know what goes on in my body or my body. And not everybody needs to know that as soon as they meet me. They don't need to. It's appropriate for other people if I'm dating and things like that. And also, I learned that I wasn't paying attention. This was a people pleaser thing I was doing, a coping thing I was doing. I wasn't paying attention to him because all throughout this process, he had just said that I'm not interested. I don't know anything about it. Kind of I don't really know about it. And if I read the room and I think about it these days, we were in a comedy venue. We're there to have laughs and we're there to have casual conversation, not change his deeply rooted belief about something. That wasn't quite the time and place for it. So maybe getting to know him a little better and then going for it. But hey, I also wanted to know if he was trans friendly or not at the end of the day. So there's a lot of things that I do differently and learned because of this encounter that I had.
And one of the things you said, it allowed you to recognize and put in place, boundaries. And boundaries are so important in all of our relationships. Everyone, there's like, I can't forget what it's called. It's like the circle thing you see. And it's like, well, some people are this close to the inner
Yeah.
circle, and some people are out. And you've heard different, there's a author, he has a book, I'm reading it right now. It's called A Relational Intelligence, and it's basically, that you have people that are friends, associates, And you have people that, they're just someone you see in a season. Some people, you've heard the term
Hmm.
for a season, for a lifetime, that type of thing, and recognizing where people fit on that, because everybody is not appropriate to be given certain levels of access to you, and knowing
Yeah.
some of that information about you is just, it's just not it it's not relevant to them, and also too, they're not able to receive it and receive it in a respectful way. So I'm curious to know, like, when we met offline, we talked about boundaries, and you dropped like some truth bombs in terms of boundaries. So talk to us about what boundaries are to you, and how you've been able to establish yours.
Well, yeah. So, like I said in this story, that guy, he created a boundary. Basically, it felt like a painful rejection for me. And up until then, I've only known boundaries to be that. Like, you set boundaries up when people do things to cross you and people do things to hurt you. That's when you use a boundary. That's when you create them. But I think that that gets you into a lot of trouble. Got me into a lot of trouble in realizing that I really didn't know who I was or what I wanted. So I want to reframe the way we think about boundaries. I want to think about boundaries less about saying no to other people or setting limits on what they can do, because you can't control them. What you can control is where you are, who you are, and what you want, and how you are. So I want to say that boundaries, instead of saying no to other people, are more about saying yes to yourself. Say yes to things that are important to you, yes to things that are interesting to you. And the power in doing this is being able to relate and connect with someone, even if they reject you. So now I can look at this guy who rejected me and he was not interested. He said yes to himself in the sense that he was not ready for this kind of conversation, this experience that he was having. He was uncomfortable. So he said yes to himself by exiting. Had nothing to really do with me. I just happened to be there. He had his own experience. And so when you go through the world and you say yes to yourself, when I know how I need to say yes to myself, I need to say yes to people who are interested in things to that I'm interested in. I need to say yes to the things that I want to do instead of doing something for another person. When I do that, I realize that when people do it to me, it has nothing to do with me. I can feel connected, like, oh, yeah, well, okay, great. Good for you for saying yes to yourself. So setting up that boundary of who you are, it means saying yes to yourself. And I'm trying to say yes to yourself so many times so that it implants into you, because, oh my goodness, boundaries are always a reactionary. And I don't want them to be reactionary for you. They need to be proactive, because everything that happens is not about you. It's not about
That's good. Say yes to yourself.
you.
Repeat that again. And also, too, it's not about you. Oh my gosh, my mentor, when she listens to this episode, she's gonna be clapping, because no, because she just was telling me the other day. I was talking about like a situation that I didn't necessarily care for, and just how it all like basically went down. And
Mhm.
she was like, "Well, what does it have to do with you?" I was like, "Well, this happened," and she's like, "What does it have to do with you? It's not about you. That's their behavior.
Mhm.
That's how they are responding, reacting." She says, "You just maintain you."
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I want to jump in on this right here. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. And to your point, I mean, if you can just maintain and recognize how you feel about the whole situation, you get an opportunity to look at them, to be curious about them. And this can make a real connection for you. Because you're like, well, I don't like what's going on with you, but why are you doing what you do? I just kind of want to know how you behave. I'm just trying to get a feel of, so I can really see you. I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't like it, but I want to let you know that I see you.
You may get me jumped. No, I'm just kidding. No, I definitely think uh, there's power in just observing situations,
Absolutely.
and also too recognizing, okay, like that's not necessarily my cup of tea, but what can I learn from it? That's the biggest
Hmm.
thing too. And this reflection in everything. That's my biggest thing. I'm trying to like not beat myself up about it, not even get upset about the situation. Okay, what can I learn? Is there a
Yeah.
teachable moment from this? And for me, it's like, okay, you never want to have that type of behavior because look at the reaction you had to it. That's a really good
Yeah.
point. That's a really good point. And saying yes to myself in that particular moment was minding my own business.
Yeah. That's right.
It was minding my own
That's right.
business. That was saying yes to me and staying in my lane. And if other people are acting out and doing, that's them.
That's
You
right.
maintain you, and that's another thing too. I think again we talked about being yourself and self acceptance
Hmm.
and not being reactionary to other people's behavior, how they, operate in this world. Like, be you, do you, and you know what? That again, I think people notice that they're like, you know what? No matter whatever's going on outside of the world, outside situation, Lee is doing Lee. Raven is doing Raven,
That's right.
and
That's
they're consistently themselves, authentically and
that.
consistently. That's what I get every time they show up the same, no matter who else is doing whatever.
That's the people we
Yeah.
want too. That's people we want in our lives. We want those people that are consistent, no matter what it is that they're doing. We want them to be consistent. Oh, we can rely on you to mind your business. We can rely on you to be there when we need you. We can rely on you to, start a fight. And I mean, because we know to call you when there's some trouble going down. You're reliable, you're consistent, whatever it is saying yes to yourself in that way. I don't recommend anybody fight, but I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to show,
Just proving a point. That
just
no,
trying to prove a point
I got
that
you. I got you.
your authenticity is what connects you with people.
Yes. And speaking of saying yes to yourself, the name of your company is Patterns of Possibility.
Yes.
What does that mean? Where did the name come from? What does that mean?
Yeah, the patterns of possibility came from me recognizing that I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. And if I would just change some variables in the process, I would find different results. So what I mean is that when I started in from Ohio, I had this big pattern where I moved from Ohio to California to Chicago. Big pattern. Like, all right, I'm moving from place to place to place, and that's all it ever changed. But what if I changed some little things within it? What if I changed where I went when I started to hang out with people? What if I changed what I said when I started to talk to people? What would it change? What would it change if I did the kind of activities that I did with other people? Would those things be and would they change? And so every time I found something that changed, it made significance, I would like, oh, that's a new possibility. Every time it was a new possibility. And so I eventually developed this idea that I can turn any pattern into a new possibility, just need to change one or two things. I think I'm a coach because I want to help people understand exactly what it is that we want to change.
So, someone listening right now, they're moving around. Maybe they've moved due to the pandemic. They're in a new city
Hmm.
and they're trying to make some changes. They're trying to establish meaningful relationships. What would you suggest they do to start?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you to do is to give yourself some grace. Okay, everything is everything. Essentially, you are doing exactly what you need to do, how you're supposed to do it, when you're supposed to do it. So that gives you some grace to learn from the experience. So I want to make sure that you put yourself in the learning mindset when you go out or you do anything and you connect with people. So do that first. And then we want to work on saying yes to yourself, creating these boundaries. And saying yes to yourself, I want to make it a little easier for you to understand what boundaries are because they were confusing for me. I didn't know what they really meant. Saying yes to myself, what is that? So I want to help you categorize that. I have something called the 3N framework, which is your needs, negotiables, and nevers. So if you moved around, you want to check on your experiences and how you felt about your experiences. So you have your needs, which are specific actions and behaviors that you want to do or that you've witnessed someone doing and you want to continue having them do that. Like You go to a place and you want to connect with people who do what your needs are. And then you have your negotiables. These are actions and behaviors that are, kind of negotiable. They don't have a real emotional impact on you, so you can take or leave them in your life. And then there are your nevers. Those are specific actions and behaviors that you do not want in your life. So I want you to take a look at those. Think about some experiences that have brought you joy and maybe needs in your life that you want to continue having. And then there are your nevers. These are experiences that you have had and specific actions and behaviors that you've had, and you do not want to continue having them in your life. When you make those, make a list of those and figure out where you can go to connect with people who do the things on that list. And it's specifically actions and behaviors because you want to go to places where actions and behaviors are happening. You can't go places where, like, I feel happy. Like, maybe you go out drinking and you feel happy, but people there are always being annoying or hitting on you, and you don't want that. So we want to look for specific actions and behaviors.
Okay. Finding people that align with the actions and the behaviors that you desire. Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct. That's correct. And make sure the saying yes to yourself is knowing what those are as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
It sounds like the first step is a lot of inner work to figure out what those things are for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the way boundaries work is not that you are going to push people away out of your life. You're just constantly going to the place that you want to be. So you're going to find yourself, because these are actions and behaviors that you need in your life. You're going to find yourself amongst people who do those things that you need in your life. And you're going to talk about the things that are important to you. You're going to find yourself having conversations with people who like the things that are important to you, because eventually they're going to filter themselves out. So you go to a place that you like and you talk to one person, they're not interested in what you're talking about. Keep talking about what you're interested in. Talk to another person, they're not interested. No problem. Talk to another person, they're interested. Boom, great connection. And that's just how it works. You just be your authentic self, and you're going to find the people who connect with you.
And it's a journey, right? It's an experience. And along the way, I'm sure you learn a lot about yourself too. Learn
Oh, yeah.
about what you love, what you like, and what you won't tolerate, huh?
Absolutely. I learned about boundaries for sure. I remember in my early 30s, I was dating a woman. It's really quick. I transitioned and I was like, well, this person really loves me and we're really cool. We're connected because I went through this medical transition um, to become a trans man. And they stayed with me. They were with me. They knew the process. And I thought, nobody was going to love me like that. So I have this job that I have to get up early for, and I come back after 12 hours, so around like 5:30 or something. So I'm up at 5, and I'm back home at 5:30. And I tell this person that I'm newly dating, hey, I cannot see you until after I've had some alone time. I just want some time to decompress. And one day they show up right as I'm putting the key in the door. And I'm like, I know that I said that I don't want you to come over so soon. Hmm, all right. I thought I set a boundary, but they said, "Oh well, I just really wanted to see you." And I was like, "They love me. My relationship's gonna be great if I give them what they want." So forget that need for my own space. It's now a negotiable. You come over sometimes or whatever, and then slowly my boundary became non-existent.
Mm.
It became non-existent. Like about a year into it, we are dating, and I remember they moved in, and I still had to get up early in the morning, but they want to hang out. So now they're hanging out with me until midnight. So on a Monday night, we're hanging out till midnight. Tuesday, same thing. Wednesday, same thing. Thursday, I'm feeling a little tired, but man, same thing. And I get home from work on Friday thinking that I'm going to take a nap and we're going to go out because I can have the weekend to recover. They're like, no, 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 I need some help. My parents need some help. Can you drive to Indiana so that we can help them? Or can you drive a couple of hours so that we can help her parents? And I was like, all right, sure, no problem. And I did that, and I was exhausted. I spent all that time exhausted. And when we got back midnight on a Friday, they still wanted me to hang out with them. And I'm like, I have no space. I have never said yes to myself here in this situation. So this relationship is gone because they're not happy with me and I'm not happy with them. I'm mad at them all the time because they don't understand how I feel. And I never said it. I never said yes to myself, you know? So I've definitely learned that it's some things are just non-negotiable. They're needs and there's some things that are nevers.
Hmm. That's powerful. Again, we go back to the say yes to yourself. You can't pour,
Definitely.
what is this term? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And I posted something so interesting that you say this today, that I posted something on IG earlier today, and I put never forget to take care of number one. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta look out for you. You gotta make sure that you are good before you can, if you're not whole and complete, you can't be that for anybody else. So I
Mm.
think that is powerful as we talk about these meaningful relationships. And what I learned from this conversation is, again, the relationship starts with your relationship with yourself.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
oh, so good, so good. So, before I ask my final question, let all of our listeners and viewers know how they can connect with you.
You can find me at patternsof possibility.com/more possibility. There you can find my 10 tips for making memorable conversations and have a free course, Understanding Connections. And I also have a challenge that's coming up soon. It's called the Breaking Better Boundaries. It's inspired by Breaking Bad, where we talk about removing these bad boundaries and break better ones. So making them better. And it's all about helping you make friendships within the 30 days. And I'm going to show you how boundaries help you do that. So again, you can find me at patternsofpossibility.com/more possibility. And you can find me at Patterns of Possibility on any social media.
Awesome, awesome. And our final question, I feel like we touched on it, but I'm curious to know, what's the greatest lesson you learned in your reset journey?
Oh, wow. Yes. So the greatest lesson that I've learned is that there's so many, but the one that we've probably just been talking about this entire time is saying yes to myself and how much that has opened up my world for me. And it has relieved me from feeling guilty about hurting other people potentially by saying yes to myself. Because, like you said, I can't pour from an empty cup.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much, Lee.
Thank you for having me, Raven. I appreciate it.
All right. We all want to be seen, heard, and connected. Say yes to yourself. If you enjoyed this show, my ask is that you pause. Pause right now and make sure you share it with someone. Someone needs to hear this. Thank you for listening. And remember, our reset is always available to you.